Hello.
We are now live and recording.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My screen just changed. I don't know what happened. Let me go back to full screen. Thank you all for joining us today. Just when we think we know what we're doing, everything changes. I would like to call to order. Ooh, that was loud right here in front of me.
Wow.
The 2020 April 17th board meeting. I am Chairman Bridget Henderson, and this is our spring meeting. We will begin with just some little housekeeping items. I want to remind you that if you're not speaking, to place your microphone on mute. And if you have any technical difficulties, April is available by text, and you can just text her and y'all can work it out among yourselves, hopefully without disrupting the meeting. But we will begin with the roll call, and I will be doing a roll call of the regents and administrators. If you are present in the meeting, please say here. Alton Fraley.
Here.
David Alders.
Here.
Scott Coleman.
Here.
Karen Gant.
Here.
Tom Mason.
Here.
Jen Winston.
Here.
Zoe Smiley.
Here.
And we have been made aware because of some COVID issues and professional obligations. Judy Olson is unavailable to join us today, but I will still call her name to acknowledge that she is not here. Judy Olson. April, please record no here. Scott Gordon.
Present.
Steve Bullard.
Here.
Danny Gallant.
Here.
Steve Westbrook.
Here.
Jill Still.
Here.
Ryan Ivy.
Here.
Irma Breck.
Here.
Anthony Espinoza.
Here.
Damon Derrick.
Here.
And Gina Oglesby.
Gina is listening online.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us and taking your Friday and Saturday out for this strange spring meeting. We are going to do things a little bit differently than normal. I'm sure we'll learn a lot over the next 2 days, things we don't know and things we need to know. But with all the challenges that we have, we will still move forward with this spring meeting. And our first item of business will be a university COVID-19 update, and Dr. Gordon will take that over.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and it's a pleasure to be in front of you electronically. When I first started here at SFA, I introduced this term VUCA environment, standing for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I don't think I ever could have imagined, nor any of us could have imagined, the extent of the VUCA environment that we have now found ourselves in higher ed in many, many years, arguably the lifetime of higher ed. Many would say this would be one of the top 5 single most impactful events for higher ed. And I would have to agree, since I've only been in higher ed for about 27 years now, but it is definitely the largest thing that has occurred in that time. One of the things that we were going to do for you today is to review with you all of the different impacts, changes, and collaborations, ideas, thoughts that have taken place just really in the last month and a half, the last 6 weeks or so. Over this period of time, starting in late February, I just can't say enough about how strong this team has been. This leadership team has collaborated tremendously, has communicated more than I've ever seen any team communicate. And I would say I would put them up there as one of the best, if not the best, administrative team in the country. So what I wanted to do was to have each of the cabinet members talk a little bit, maybe 5 minutes, about what they had to go through in their units to adapt, become resourceful, and to change the way we do things here at the university in order to best serve our faculty, our staff, and our students. And you'll see a presentation on your diligence site, and there's close to 60 slides. I will tell you, we aren't going to go through those slides and have death by PowerPoint, but I just wanted the team to illustrate what each of their areas have done during this COVID-19 crisis. And it really, truly is amazing because all of this has been done in essentially a little over a month. So with that, we're going to go through this, and each of the cabinet members are going to take 5 minutes to talk about how they have been impacted. And they will also introduce the next team member. And then at the end, I will have a summary for you and kind of give you an idea of how I perceive things going and how the students have perceived things going during this COVID-19 incident. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve Westbrook. And most of you probably know by policy, Steve is our chair of the Emergency Operations Committee and Center, and has been doing an outstanding job of keeping all of us informed and holding regular meetings to help disseminate information from the variety of campus areas. So Steve, take it away.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gordon. Hello, everybody. We'll try to squeeze everything into our 5-minute time limit. I will tell you, the first time we began work on this response was in February, actually February the 6th. We have a public health policy that outlines how we deal with public health issues. I chair that committee. That policy actually was supposed to come to you for review this meeting. We've deferred that to see if we need to make any changes after we go through this issue. But February the 6th, we convened our Public Health Committee to begin to review implementation of our pandemic response plan. That was 72 days ago, and at that time, there had been 12 cases that were reported in the United States. Within our pandemic response plan, there are numerous units that begin to make plans. So those groups begin to review their portions of our response to the plan. And then on the 10th of February, so 4 days after that meeting, we launched a website, which we call the Coronavirus Prevention website, to keep the campus community informed and to provide links to relative sources of official information. So then we moved from February 10 really until March the 2nd, because that's when we began to see that this was going to become a more involved issue. Even at that time, there had only been 53 cases officially reported in the country, but we then expanded our small public health committee to a 22-member coronavirus response team, because we began to understand then we would not only have to implement our pandemic response plan, but we would also have to look at continuity of operations issues. So that was on March the 2nd. March the 4th, we met with that team for the first time to review CDC guidance and look at how we felt we were ready for what we termed at the time alternate operations, should ever such thing be needed. And at that time, on March 4th, there were only 98 cases reported in the country. 2 days later, we conducted an exercise to sort of test our capacity to communicate and work remotely, and to further frame the issues that would be related to going to some type of alternate operation. So this was only 43 days ago that we did this. We tested two scenarios. One scenario, and this was the Friday before spring break for some context. We tested one scenario, and that was a situation where there may be cases within the region, and following spring break, we might have students or employees that would be hesitant or even refuse to return to work or class after spring break. And we tested ways that we might address those issues. And then we moved to a second scenario where we would shift to online operations in case of an expanded number of cases within the region. And then we agreed that we would evaluate the readiness gaps in each area and that we would debrief on those the Friday following spring break, which would have been March the 20th. Well, as you know, we never made it to that debrief because on March the 12th, we made the decision to move to what we call then restricted operations. And we notified all the campus community about that, where we extended spring break by 2 days through March 17th. And we moved all of our classes to some type of online or other distance education format until April the 6th. We thought we may be able to come back in a few weeks, and then we canceled all meetings and events for the remainder of the semester. And then only 7 days following that, it became obvious that we would need to extend that online and distance education part of the original announcement through the end of the semester. Of course, we postponed May commencement. We closed residence halls for the remainder of the semester, asked the students that were currently here, and we had only had about 400 return from spring break. We asked them to vacate their halls no later than March 29th on a Sunday. And then we began to take requests for emergency housing for students that had no alternate place to live. We have 44 students that are still living in housing. And so we are working with them. They are isolated in different residence halls, but they have all sorts of issues. Some are homeless without housing here. Some have aged out of the foster care system. Some have grandparents or their guardians, and they have health conditions at home. So out of about 3,700 residents, we have 44 that are still living with us. We announced then that we would provide refunds and credits for unused portions of housing, dining, and the rec sports fee and the student center fee and parking permit fees. And then we canceled all meetings and events for the remainder of the semester. So a few things that when we clicked that switch, a few things took off. One thing that we did even after the first announcement is we opened a call center, because one thing we've learned through dealing with crisis situations is that sometimes parents and students want to talk to a person rather than just read a website. So we opened a call center and we took calls. I'll give a lot of credit to Dr. Peck and Carrie Charlie, our Director of Auxiliary Services, for organizing and often manning the phones at the call center. And it was very nice when a student or a parent had a question and they were actually getting the answer from the person that was the decision maker. So that's always very helpful for us, also because students and parents often have follow-on questions after they get their first answer. So we still maintain the call center, 468-3401, and we can help students or families find answers to their questions. One of the biggest changes was to our auxiliary services area. Of course, we had 3,834 residents living with us in the spring. Of course, that turned off overnight. We had 4,189 dining plans that came to a screeching halt. We had to cancel 215 events in the student center alone. Those have a value of around $170,000. Our summer camps are at this point at a standstill because we simply can't give anyone assurance that we will be able to do those. Last year we hosted 43 summer camps. This year we only have 3 on the books. We're not sure we will be able to do those. We are on a 3-week rolling window to inform those 3 groups. That's a revenue impact of a little over $800,000 as well. Our testing services area, prior to our change, we had administered 580 high stakes tests. Since then, 0. Our post office is a U.S. post office, so we remain open just as they remain open. But our volume of package handling is down about 72%. And of course, our printing services area has gone silent as well. Looking at the changes in our orientation and transition programs, we would be getting ready to begin to host new student orientations over the summer. That is going to take a complete shift. We will be doing online advising and registration through the course of the summer. And then we will plan to do a just-in-time orientation the week prior to fall classes, if we're able to do that, in what we are calling our Jack Camp. So we're sort of moving our Jack Camp program to the week prior to fall classes, and all of our incoming new students will be able to participate in that. Our Center for Career and Professional Development has transitioned to a virtual professional document and resume critiques, career coaching appointments and mock interviews, have access to our Career Expo employers and access to the job board, and they're conducting virtual professional development workshops. In our disability services area, we have 379 students that are clients of our disability services area. So we immediately had to contact them and service providers to ensure that access to online content was meeting the accommodation requirements, and provide them the resources and assistance that they may need for remote learning. We've worked with faculty to access their Zoom lectures and D2L content for those that need interpreters or note takers or readers. We have been assisting faculty with transcribing their audio and video lectures and then converting those into accessible formats and uploading those for our students. And we're providing readers remotely by Zoom for exams and course content. We're providing tutors by Zoom, and we're working with students and faculty to confirm accommodations for extended test time there. Our Title IX office quickly adapted all of their services to an online or remote format and followed the guidance from legal and professional organizations to make sure that all of those services were in compliance with our requirements. Our counseling services area had to move to all remote services. So initially, all of their clients that had scheduled appointments following the campus closure were contacted, and they were given an option then to schedule a distance session, and we began offering sessions via Zoom. And then we continue to conduct sessions either by telephone or Zoom, and we publicize that distance counseling on my SFA and social media and on the website. And then just this week, our counseling staff developed a resource for faculty that highlighted the trending issues that they're hearing from their clients that they're having with distance learning, and provided suggestions to our faculty on how to help address those with our students. Our health services area and our health clinic, of course, with the students and the employees off campus, Dr. Leday and her staff have become our own sort of internal Department of Health Services, and they provide very close liaison with county and state health services. Dr. Leday has tracked down epidemiologists across the state when we have a question, so she's done a great job for us. And then our campus recreation area, March the 17th. Yes.
About 1 minute.
Okay. March 17th, about 30 days ago, we closed our physical recreation center and moved online. We're still doing about 80% of our group classes are online, so we're doing 13 classes a week. And we do have other esports tournaments that are going on for our students in that area. Of course, our police have been securing facilities across campus. And then I'll wrap up with our food pantry. We are still helping students that live in Nacogdoches with access to our food pantry. And then our Student Emergency Aid Fund, we're still receiving calls and fortunately still receiving donations for that. And we're able to help students who are living in Nacogdoches, have lost jobs, and mostly are just unable to pay their rent. So with that, I will pass off the baton to Dr. Bullard. Dr. Bullard.
And Steve, could you turn your camera on so we can see you?
Yeah, I think April has to turn it on. Okay, thank you. I'm the only one without a seal today, so if you'll forgive me for that, I'll continue. I do want to call your attention to something. The significance of what's been done in academic affairs, of course, is just as significant as the things that Dr. Westbrook just summarized in student affairs. It's been intensive and very dramatic. But I would like to call your attention, and I promised in terms of PowerPoint, it won't be a comorbidity factor. If you would look at page 27. And I'm just going to go to page 28. Well, let me just do this. On page 27, I think you'll see the March 12th was the day before. You were going to have a special called board meeting on the 13th in Katy. That's the Thursday before that, what was to be the special called meeting. But on that day when the announcement was sent out that at 3 o'clock that afternoon, that was during our spring break. So all of our faculty were gone. And yet we knew that by the following Wednesday, we had to take everything online. And if you look at the next page, page 28, that simple graphic shows you that we had 477 course sections online and another 97 that were other distance ed. I put that in there just to show you the comparison. If you go to page 29, you'll see that what we had to do was take 2,595 course sections into a different format, either Zoom-based or online or other remote format. And that required, and so that would be on Monday and Tuesday of the following week. So there was 2 days to get those 2,600 course sections into a different format. So what I want to do is if you look at slide 30, the way that was done, a couple of the people responsible, Megan Weatherly and Tiana Oliphant, are on the call today helping us on the technology side. They and the other fine staff in the CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning, were already in action before Monday, the 17th, and Tuesday, the 18th. They were already prepared for when the faculty came back on Monday. They created a Keep Teaching website, and that's no small thing. It was a very, very useful thing. Took a lot of work. The faculty were able to learn everything they needed to know essentially from that website. And therefore, some of the demands were less for things like the webinars, the virtual and walk-in labs, the phone and email support. They set up pop-up recording studios for Zoom recording, and also used the website, Facebook page, Twitter pages. Also, I want to give a shout out to ITS because they collaborated intensively with them during that time. And then going forward then, classes started online on Wednesday, the 18th, as Steve said, thinking that it would only be through April 6th. But on just a short while later, that was changed, of course, to know that it would be through the end of the semester. I also want to indicate another significant date, and that was March 20th. It's highlighted on slide 30, on page 31. That was the day that in your special called meeting, the Regents gave Dr. Gordon authority to temporary authority to suspend policy. Where that's significant, you'll see that on the following Wednesday, March 25th, we had to issue new guidelines for faculty. Everything is contractual in terms of promotion and tenure and how everything is used. And of course, now that's all been turned over completely. So we issued new guidelines on tenure and post-tenure review, plans for assisted development, how the distance education stipends would be handled, the student evaluations of instruction, and then telecommuting or teleworking for faculty. That was on the 25th. On Friday, the 27th, we then had a Zoom meeting with faculty. That afternoon, on Friday afternoon, the 27th, the Faculty Senate also had a pass-fail option discussion and came out with a resolution to support continuing our current grade policy. And some of you may have been involved in that. Some of those things are summarized on page 32. What I just want to say is we've had to implement more exam proctoring, where you see there on page 32, Proctorio goes live. That product has been months in the making to get that online. That was a $50,000 product. I do want to say this. I just really want to give a strong shout out to Jeremy Stovall and the Faculty Senate. You'll hear from Jeremy tomorrow, of course, but they have done a phenomenal job of working through this. And I want to say this, I have not heard one complaint from a faculty member to my office about this. Everybody realizes that this is a situation that's an emergency and has been working extremely hard to get it done. And the last thing on that slide, the last thing I'll mention, you'll see those words: student support, student registration. Registration for summer opened on March 23rd. Of course, all of that is online now. And advising, and then the ARC, the Academic Assistance and Resource Center. I want to give Emmy McWilliams and her crew a shout out, because they have done also extremely intensive work to retrain the student tutors, the supplemental instruction, all of the support that we provide to students that used to be face-to-face has had to be completely modified. That is the last thing I'd like to say in the area of academic affairs, but I think our deans, our academic unit heads, and our faculty have really put their shoulder to the wheel and couldn't have done a better job. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gallant.
Thank you, Dr. Bullard. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. You've heard a lot about what's happening with regard to academic affairs, student delivery, and residence life. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that have taken place in the Finance Administration Division. And as my colleagues and Dr. Gordon have indicated, we have seen a tremendous team effort on this campus. I've seen esprit de corps like I've not seen it before. No complaints from any of the staff people that I've worked with. Everybody just works so closely together. We've, on a daily basis, had to react to news, new information from the federal government, interpretations from the Department of Labor. So we have dealt with a lot of issues. In addition to working with different types of employee concerns and those oversight bodies, we felt it was strongly important to track the COVID-19 expenditures for a number of reasons. First, we felt that it was appropriate and important to see what our financial impact would be as it relates to the COVID-19 response. Secondly, we knew it was important to articulate to you very specific financial details that we had been affected by, as well as have a collection of data for our state legislative bodies and oversight bodies. In fact, we had begun developing this system of collecting data. We were contacted by the Legislative Budget Board, and they required us to submit a compilation of our financial activities, both revenue losses and expenditure increases related to COVID-19 by April the 9th. So we've continued to collect those kind of data, and we updated that LBB report on April the 16th. Now, if you would, what I'm going to do, I'm summarizing a lot of the detail that we provided in Finance Administration. If you'll turn to page 44 in your diligent program there, I just want to go through some things. Before I go through the details, I'd like to tell you our process, how we went about this. We collected direct coronavirus expenditures that were necessary to respond to the situation. We set up two different accounts. One was a designated account to collect all of the institutional expenditures instead of the student life expenditures, which were collected in an auxiliary account. So what we did, we requested revenue loss information and all direct expenditures related to responses. As an example, we asked faculty to report their time as it related to their transition from face-to-face delivery to online delivery. We asked staff members to report all of their time related to COVID-19 response. And part of the teamwork, like my colleagues, I have to recognize IT. IT was tremendous. What we were able to do, we went in and created with budget, with payroll, with human resources, financial aid, and IT collaborating. We created an online process, and banner, whereby we could capture the amount of hours each individual staff member and faculty member on campus expended on the COVID-19. They would go in and enter their time. The system was programmed to go pick up their salary, calculate the time spent on it, and keep up with that. That is included in this report that you see before you. And I will tell you, I was shocked to get this. The total amount of time institutionally that we've allocated to COVID-19 was 18,829 hours. The cost was $1,022,000, and that comes out to $54 an hour. So it's been a tremendous cost, at the same time keeping up with our regular kinds of institutional operations. So it's been a tremendous response. Human resources has been unbelievable in interpreting the federal guidelines. We set up different leave codes. I'll quickly go through page 44 with you. What we've delineated there is the revenue losses, which total 8.8 million. They're listed out by category. We also were asked by the LBB to project any kind of summer decline in revenue. We've listed that. Athletics revenue, we've listed what we project we'll lose. When you go down the very bottom, revenue losses directly related to refunds, 8.8 million. And then the total revenue loss was over 10.7 million. If you flip to page 45, then you'll see the expenditures that were related to the COVID-19 response. We had to break these out by category, for the LBB. You'll see that the salaries and wages, which total 786,000. You'll see the total benefits associated with those, and then other operating expenditures. So total expenses related to our institutional COVID response above and beyond what we are required to do as a part of our academic mission was almost $12 million. So I'll stop there and turn to Jill Steele.
Hello, everybody. All right. Let's see, here we go. All right, we're on page 48. If you'll join me there. We'll go through several of the items addressed by university advancement during COVID-19. First, we'll start with university marketing communications. And as you know, the website is our primary communication tool, so it was imperative to get a fully functioning website in the moment of this COVID-19 pandemic. Jason Johnstone, our university webmaster, did an outstanding job developing this site. He and his team have been diligent in making updates around the clock. Shirley Luna, our executive director of marketing communications, has not only overseen the construction of this ever-evolving website, but pushed communications from the university out to all stakeholder groups through email messaging and social media platforms leading people to the website. In addition, she and her team closely monitor social media accounts for the university as to respond to students, parents, and others in a very timely manner, which is important. In general, regarding our communications, quick delivery and response has been and will continue to be critical. In the silent phase of a comprehensive fundraising campaign, it has been important for our development team to maintain donor relations virtually. Many have responded positively to our feel-good messaging we have shared while everyone is quarantined. Since gift officers can no longer travel, they continue to communicate with donors while also conducting high levels of prospect donor research and attending webinars for best practices during COVID-19. Our alumni relations team has been busy canceling numerous events, as you can imagine, between now and early fall, while taking some of them virtual, like the tuition raffle last week and the upcoming senior send-off and ring dip events. They have also created and delivered positive messaging as to maintain regular contact with our more than 105,000 living alumni base during this time. And if you haven't seen the tuition raffle produced using video and Zoom last week, I will forward the link to you, as our very own President Scott Gordon did a terrific job. And at this point, if we have no questions, I'll ask Anthony to join you now.
Good afternoon. Thank you. As my colleagues have mentioned, this has been a tremendous collaborative and teamwork initiative that has been displayed by the group. And I just want to commend all the ITS staff for the phenomenal work they've done. We've had staff that work long hours, weekends, nights to assist the community with this transition to online. And as has been alluded to earlier by Dr. Buller, there was a great collaborative effort between ITS and CTL. And I really want to highlight Mike Coffey in that regard. He has really spearheaded that initiative working with CTL. He's been tireless, relentless in providing the resources that CTL has needed. As part of that, we had to create a good amount of documentation, as you can imagine, to help support our community with the transition to online. And Brandon Stringfield really has stepped up to help in that arena, from not only traditional documentation, but to videos to help guide the community through the transition to online, remote work, telecommute, that type of environment. Programming staff has done a phenomenal job. Rich Barnhart, Tracy Foster, among all the other staff, they had to really create processes to do the refunds we've talked about, to change from face-to-face to online delivery. We've had a multitude of requests that have come in related to COVID-19. So I really want to highlight and thank them for their work. As part of this, we have encountered community members who have had limited access or no access to the internet. So what the ITS staff has done has deployed access points in various garage parking spaces across our campus to provide individuals the ability at least to come up, access the internet if need be, while maintaining social distancing and abiding by CDC guidelines, because they could do this from their vehicle. So I want to highlight Jason Wiggins and his staff and Mike Hoff for getting that done for our community. And you may have heard in the community, we have a COVID-19 testing center and testing site with a call center. That was a great collaborative effort, not only within SFA, but with the local community, medical community, to get that set up and spearheaded. And that was led by Mike Coffey. So again, he's been tremendous in providing support that we've needed for this. As Dr. Bull alluded to, we've had some initiatives that we've had to escalate in our deployment. Proctorio was one. The other has been Slate, which is our new CRM. So we're using that to communicate with our students and prospects. And I want to highlight Meredith Bailey and her staff for really stepping up to get that initiated and move forward. And CRM is continuing. We're just in initial phases, but we've identified things that we can get done and implement it now so that we can begin to leverage those. So I just want to thank the whole ITS team for the great work they've done and for the support of the community as we made this transition. So thank you. And next I will call on Irma.
Irma, are you with us? Calling Irma.
Okay, can y'all see me? Yay, okay, wonderful, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here with you guys, even virtually. I also will join the echo of the amount of collaboration that has taken place across this campus within different departments and different units. Areas that we would have never really thought we would have worked with. It's been amazing to make sure what we can accomplish to keep moving us forward and serving our students. What I've done, and you'll see on the slides, I've taken the opportunity to kind of break out the enrollment management unit in the three different units: financial aid, the registrar, and admissions, just to provide a little bit more of a focus on the different type of activities or impact that the COVID-19 situation has caused within the enrollment management area. So I'm going to begin with the financial aid office. I think one of the biggest areas in that office for us has just been transitioning completely to a telecommuting process while we're still able to maintain the financial aid awarding that is incredibly critical to our not only current students, but our prospective students, and the financial aid counseling that goes with that. So again, a huge shout out to Anthony's team and technology, helping work through a lot of different situations, but being able to get to a completely telecommuting process, but still maintaining some office tasks or procedures that require a scheduled staff to be in the office daily. There's a lot of Department of Education documents, electronic documents, such as FAFSA or loan documents, that have to be brought down by staff. So adjusting that schedule to accommodate telecommuting, but still making sure that the work is being able to be obtained from the Department of Education. A couple of different things in financial aid that was probably a little bit of a highlight was federal work study program was really critical in getting the direction from the Department of Education on that. Because federal work study is a need-based award, it was decided that that particular award would still continue to be given to the students even if they weren't working. So worked a lot with our business office folks, our HR folks, to make sure that any of our students who were doing federal work study, regardless if they were able to be here on campus or not, or be doing their federal work study job, was able to still receive that financial aid in the federal work study format since it's need-based. A good amount of time, and it's still ongoing in regards to the policy review for SAP, or satisfactory academic progress, is again just seeing the changes and discussions that have taken place that have impacted how aid may be awarded based on academic performance. We were involved a great deal with the Faculty Senate on the pass-fail discussion, but also then in regards to taking a look at how will the appeal process work as well, should students academic performance, their satisfactory academic progress, not be able to, that if it was impacted due to the COVID situation, making sure we assess, establish that process in place where the students' appeal process would not be a hurdle that they would have to do. So working with establishing a code and establishing some leniency so that they would be able to continue to be awarded for the coming fall. So still work and ongoing discussion on that, but moving forward with adjusting that policy accordingly. The other policy review is the return of Title IV funds or federal funds, and those changes based on the CARES Act. Most of that part is dealing with the return of withdrawals, that if a student withdraws normally, of course, based on the date of withdrawal, certain federal funds are returned. In this case, because a disaster declaration has been made, going through that review policy on how the withdrawal date and the refund amount for or the return of any title funds would be based. So that is still also an ongoing discussion with our colleagues, but addressing that, working with our Smith Hudson donor for our scholarship to have those funds returned. And interestingly, that probably just got on our radar, I'd say a few days ago, last week, was working with the CARES Act as well in regards to the emergency grant fund and seeing how we're going to be awarding that to get that money in that emergency fund to our students. In the registrar office, activities of just adjusting some extending some dates to help accommodate both faculty and students. The biggest one that is, I think, was a big jolt to everyone, of course, was postponing May commencement. And we were very adamant about making sure we use that language of postponing, because we will be having a virtual commencement. It's going to be scheduled for May 30th. There has been a lot of moving pieces and a great teamwork on making sure that SFA provides its first ever, hopefully it's only, virtual commencement on May 30th. And so that has been an ongoing as we're putting all the pieces together for that. And then also in regards to the registrar office, just a lot of the services, making sure we were looking at which services we had both on the web and our areas that usually is students would need to come in, and making sure we could address that language and the service so that the students would be able to still be serviced from afar or from a distance. On the recruitment and the admission side, we have on the operation of receiving applications and processing applications, we have continued to move forward with that. Definitely still had to make some adjustments in regards to a telecommuting process on that, and all documents and the review of applications and keeping up with making sure that's done in a very compliant way and a very being mindful of records. The recruitment side, we have worked closely with UMC, updating our webpage to, instead of us having a Saturday showcase, which the March one had to be canceled, or our recruiters going out to doing college fairs and meeting students at the high schools and at the community colleges, we had to completely reestablish our strategic plan for recruitment into a virtual manner. Our webpage does have a SFA admissions is still here for you and provides a menu of different virtual recruitment services that we are offering them, everything from Jack Chats. We have about 63 different topics scheduled throughout the month of April. We're having regular admissions counselors. It's just a one-on-one Zoom session with a student and a family. We are doing different type of virtual college fairs. So that virtual activity goes on every day. I am incredibly amazed with the staff. We've always had a regional group, and it actually has made everybody regional, to be honest. And it's brought together, I think, a spirit of teamwork and understanding, and everyone is bringing their talents to the front so that we can make sure we're continuing to help impact the recruitment, not only for this fall's class, but also the juniors who are already in a college search process for fall 21 as well. So that kind of wraps up my part on enrollment management. So I want to go ahead and hand this over to Ryan Ivey.
Thank you, Irma. Good afternoon, everyone. I am the next to last, so I will make this as painless for you as possible so that we can move on. But obviously, this has been had a big effect from an athletic standpoint and continues to do so. But I just, as many of my colleagues have already done, I want to thank and brag on our athletic staff and coaches and student athletes, really in how they've handled this situation. It has been something that has been a tremendous impact on them, especially our seniors who had their seasons abruptly stopped, and they have done a great job of managing this process from an academic standpoint, from a social standpoint, and just being great representatives for us moving forward. So I'm extremely proud of our student athletes, our coaches, and our staffs moving forward. Our biggest priority when COVID-19 hit was, and it is, continues to be, to try to serve our student athletes and really maintain some structure to their respective situations. As many of you know, our student athletes live in a very structured environment, and as soon as this happened and they were sent home to their respective homes, they lost that structure altogether. And so we have desperately tried to create that structure for them and maintain some sense of normalcy for them moving forward. And I think our staffs have certainly done that. We wanted to be able to serve our student athletes and provide an environment in which they felt supported and cared for. This really began for us back March 6th. And if you look at page 59 of your board book is when the athletics information and portions in, and I'll be very brief through this, but March 6th through the 11th, we began receiving regular updates from the NCAA and the Southland Conference regarding guidance about winter championships and what that looked like. March 11th, our athletics executive team met to discuss our procedures on how we would receive our student athletes back from spring break, and that included a screening process, a potential exposure for those student athletes, and any determination to have them self-isolate moving forward. On March 12th, that was a day in which we canceled the Southland Conference basketball tournament. That was a day in which the NCAA canceled their winter and spring championships. And that was also the day that we voted to suspend all spring sports competitions through March 30th at that point in time from a conference standpoint. Then on March the 14th, the conference, we voted to cancel remaining spring sports seasons and championships moving forward. But during that period of time, our athletics executive team began to develop procedures really for four main areas. Our first one was academics. Again, we wanted to make sure that we created some sense of normalcy or framework and structure for our student athletes as it related to their academic endeavors. So each week, our student athletes are sent an objective sheet by their respective academic advisor by 5 p.m. on Sunday. For student athletes who are normally in a required weekly study hall, basically our at-risk student athletes. They are required to check in with their respective athletics academic advisors by 3 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to ensure that work is being completed. Our student athletes who are not on campus, who are not normally in a required study hall, they are required to check in with their assigned advisors on Tuesdays and Thursdays by 3 p.m. to ensure that their work is being completed in a timely manner. We also utilize virtual tutoring. So we use Zoom for tutoring, and to ensure the academic integrity of all our tutoring sessions, we record those and spot check them accordingly. Our policy on attending tutoring, whether it's virtually or in person, is still in place, and ramifications do occur for those student athletes who miss a tutoring session or are late to tutoring sessions moving forward. We also have started virtual study halls, specifically for our larger sports and those that may have more at-risk student athletes. Specifically, we use them for position groups, and position coaches are also online and involved with that process as well for us. And then we developed a training manual for tutors and student athletes on how to utilize Zoom appropriately. And everything has gone well so far for us. We have less and less issues each week. And I'm really, again, really proud of our academic staff and our student athletes moving forward. Our second area was communication. Obviously, at this point in time, student athletes being gone all over the state, really all over the country, we needed to create an opportunity to communicate with them effectively. So we leverage our TeamWorks platform. And since about March 14th, when we initiated our TeamWorks platform, we've had over 3,000 messages sent. We've had over 7,500 TeamWorks sessions. We've had 100 form completions and 50 files that have been shared moving forward. And those are updated numbers as of yesterday. And so really proud of the communication platform that we've been able to use to really get to get our messages out to our student athletes, but also create a sense of connectivity for them moving forward as well. Our third area that we knew we were going to have some challenges with is obviously our finances. Immediately, we started work on a refund policy for all spring sport and Southern Conference basketball tournament ticket holders. We provided 3 options for them that they could receive credit on their account for future games. They could roll their amount of purchase to the Purple Lights Fund and receive gift credit for that, or they could receive a refund via their credit card credit or a check from our SFA business office moving forward. I'm really proud of our fans of the amount of refunds that we could have processed and given back. We've only given back about 20% in actual cash refunds moving forward. The rest of them chose to use that from a credit for a future ticket purchase or rolled it into a PLF credit for them moving forward. So our fans have been still invested in us moving forward. So I really can't thank them enough. From a NCAA membership distribution standpoint, with the loss of the winter and spring championships, the NCAA has lost over $800 million in revenue. That's essentially about 80% of their revenue and annual revenue moving forward. We expect over the course of FY20 and FY21 to lose an approximate $750,000 in NCAA distribution funds moving forward. We, at this point in time, we have frozen all non-essential spending and all expenses for athletics must be approved by myself and Rob Myers moving forward. And we're working with the conference office at this time for what upcoming year is going to look like as far as expenses and contests moving forward. Our fourth area was compliance standpoint. Obviously with COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of issues as it surrounds our NCAA compliance. Specifically, we have a recruiting ban that's in place until May 31st. There's no face-to-face contact. We did begin April 15th with the new signing period. And so we are able now to issue NLIs and grant aids for new student athletes. The biggest piece of relief that came from a compliance standpoint was an additional season of competition waiver for all spring sports student athletes. Basically what that means is for beginning next year, they can come back, they can receive the amount of their current scholarship up to their amount of their current scholarship. For us, we have asked our seniors, for those that would be coming back, who would and who wouldn't be. Our max amount could have been about just under $400,000 at $398,000. But again, About 60% of our seniors said that they would be coming back. So we're at about $225,000 in additional scholarship costs, but that's also going to bring in an additional $203,000 to the institution from a equivalency sport standpoint moving forward. So really our delta that we have to cover there is about $22,000. And then currently right now, I think everybody's question is, what does the future hold for college athletics? And are we going to start on time? And what does the fall look like? And quite frankly, no one really knows at this point in time, but we are currently working with our conference members or the other colleagues throughout college athletics to really try to get a better picture of what that looks like moving forward. And there's all kinds of models and things out there. We do expect to have athletics next year. We just really don't know what that's going to look like right now moving forward. So with that, I will pass the baton back to our fearless leader, Dr. Scott Gordon.
Well, thank you, Ryan. And I'll have a few things I want to say, and then we'll have it open for questions, comments, and so on. I guess the one thing I really want to reiterate is my extreme pride in a variety of folks. First of all, this team, because every single decision that is made, independent of what unit is making the decision, impacts another area of campus. And so we have gotten to know each other, I would say, quite well over the last 6 weeks or so, and have talked about all of these decisions, the impact these decisions have on the various units. And sometimes that has resulted in a modified decision than what was originally thought. So it's been a tremendous experience. It's really, I think, brought us together. I also think that we have the best faculty in the nation. Dr. Bullard mentioned that he did not get any complaints. I did not get any complaints from the faculty. I think, during this whole crisis, everybody has been understanding. Everybody has been caring and thoughtful. Our students, I'll give you some data on that in a moment, but for the most part, the students are very pleased with how this has been handled by the university. I also, I'll talk about more of this tomorrow, but it really has brought together the city, the county, NISD, the university. I've had several communications with the former NISD superintendent who is in hiding for most people, but not us. And because we have a charter school, and decisions that we make with our charter school needed to be mirrored with NISD. So we had collaboration there. The county and city with stay-at-home orders, we need to be in sync with those as well. Even though we are a state entity, we wanted to be good citizens of the city and the county. And so I've been talking with the mayor and the county judge on a regular basis, just to make sure we're all communicating, we all have the same information. And so it's just been a tremendous feat to keep everything straight, to communicate everything. Tomorrow, I will update the board on the details of the suspended and modified policies, and I'll go into some detail about which policies and why those were suspended. I also will take some time tomorrow. You've heard about our COVID-19 world that we're living in right now. We can't just stop with the COVID-19 world that we're living in right now. We have to think post-COVID-19. And so I'll spend some time tomorrow talking about some of the ideas, the initiatives, the concepts we have for this post-COVID-19 world. There's a lot of unknown, but there's a lot of things I think we can do to emerge from this as a stronger university, a stronger community, and a leader in higher education in the United States. So let me talk a little bit about a survey that the Student Affairs Group recently sent out to our students. Just about 4 days ago, they sent a survey out, and we've had so far 893 respondents. And this was a survey sent out to all of our SFA students. So 893 of those students responded, pretty evenly distributed between freshmen, sophomore, junior, and seniors, although probably juniors and seniors were the lion's share of the respondents. We asked 5 questions, and let me just tell you the results. First of all, we wanted to know how many of the students were taking predominantly on-campus or off-campus classes. And before the move to the distance education only, we only had about 13% of our students were using online. Within a few days, we went from 13% to essentially 100%. Our students, who some have had some issues, we put in all sorts of resources for them to help them through those issues. They've really done a great job and displayed what I like to refer to as the grit, grace, and gratitude of a lumberjack. We've had 83% of our students perceive that the SFA response has been considerably better or somewhat better than other universities. So that's another point that I think is very important. And another question, 87% of students perceive that SFA's communication during this crisis has been good to excellent. When looking at how we have handled the refunds because of this crisis, 91% of students perceive that SFA's handling of refunds has been fair to excellent. And it doesn't take much to look up COVID refunds, higher education, to see the number of institutions that are either being sued or the number of institutions that are getting really hit hard about their refunds. 91% of our students are happy with the way we're handling the refunds. And then we talked about, we asked them about, because of this issue, are you considering not returning in the fall? And what we found, and this is, to me, was a wonderful result. 92%, I wish it were 100, but 92% of our students indicate they plan to return to us this fall. And so, again, I'm extremely proud of the way the faculty, the staff, the leadership has handled this situation. And I will tell you that while we are still in the midst of handling it, and while we were about 6 weeks ago making decisions and having to revisit ideas every hour or so, it's gotten to be a little bit longer of a time period now, but we are still in the situation. We're talking about things that we can do to help our students, help our faculty, help our staff, help the university and the health of the university. But we are also very much deep into the discussions about what are we going to do post-COVID-19. And I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. So with that, I know everybody's still on the call. If you have any questions or comments, or then we're open to answering them.
Madam Chair. I'd like to, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I want to thank Dr. Gordon and the entire team for what they've been doing and the way they've gone about it. I've observed it up close, and it's been very just impressive, the collaborative spirit, the selflessness, and just the creative energies that have gone into continue to put SFA above and beyond our peer institutions in terms of service to our students and the collaborative nature. So thank you guys for all that you guys been doing.
Well, thank you, Alton. And I would be remiss too, not when I'm talking about faculty, staff, and leadership, I mean every faculty, every staff, everybody across campus. I mean, the cleaning was stepped up and is continuing to be tremendous. The people who have manned the phone lines for hours and hours on weekends during spring break, It's just been amazing. Our CTL folks who came in from over spring break and worked tirelessly to get the faculty up and running in the online environment. It really, I mean, you know, they say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. We got going. And I think, you know, I was a little bit worried because I know that several of us during spring break were running on fumes and we had the adrenaline going, but you know, we've taken care of one another. You know, we've looked at each other and said, hey, take this weekend and relax. And really it's built a tremendous team that I'm proud to be part of.
Well, I would like to say congratulations to you and your entire staff. I mean, this report, very honestly, even keeping up with this documentation and what you've been able to do to document, and I know that was a request of the governor's office also, was to keep track so we can report back to them, and it be a learning experience for all universities across the board and through the state of Texas. And I agree with Alton. I commend you and your staff. Y'all have done an outstanding job, and way to go. Okay, well, if we want to move on from the COVID-19 report, we will now go into executive session. And April, if you would like to instruct us on how we move from open session into executive session, we will move forward.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to send you will get a request to join the breakout room, and you just click on the request and you will go in there and join Damon, who will then take control of the technical side of the breakout rooms.
Okay, is everyone good with timing, or would you like to take a break, stand up and kind of move around, or you want to keep rolling?
A brief break would be great.
Okay, let's, while we're transferring into executive session, why don't we take a 5 to 10 minute break and we will all meet back. But April.
One clarification for April or Bridget. Do we need to leave this meeting or just hang on?
No, I will I will share my screen that shows that the meeting is momentarily paused, and also cut all video for all of you.
Thank you. We'll see you back in 5 to 10. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Welcome back to open session of our Spring Board of Regents meetings. With all business being handled for today, we will recess to reconvene tomorrow morning, April the 18th at 9 a.m. And at this time, this portion of the meeting is adjourned.